China is extremely annoyed by the possibility of the visit of the Speaker of the U.S. House of Representatives Nancy Pelosi to Taiwan. Washington fears that the trip could provoke Beijing into decisive action. Chinese commentators, for their part, are hinting at a military response. Biden administration officials are concerned that China could attempt to declare a no-fly zone over Taiwan ahead of a possible visit by Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi to disrupt the trip, which could further heighten tensions in the region, a U.S. official told CNN. Beijing could also retaliate by sending fighter jets further into Taiwan's self-declared air defense zone, which could provoke reactions from Taipei and Washington, the official added. They did not specify what exactly a possible response would entail. In recent months, China has repeatedly deployed warplanes to Taiwan's self-declared air defense zone, which does not violate any international law, but usually results in Taipei taking precautions, including occasionally taking off its own fighter jets. The Chinese aircraft did not enter the island's territorial airspace, an area extending 12 nautical miles from its coastline. The U.S. State Department called on China to stop bullying Taiwan. According to CNN, citing 3 people familiar with the planning process, Nancy Pelosi is planning a trip to Taiwan in the coming weeks. While other members of Congress and former U.S. officials visited the island this year, Pelosi will become the highest-ranking U.S. lawmaker to visit Taiwan in 25 years since then-Speaker Newt Gingrich visited Taiwan in 1997. In recent months, tensions have escalated between Washington and Beijing over the Taiwan issue. The Chinese Communist Party has long claimed that Taiwan is part of its territory and has repeatedly vowed to reunite with the island of 24 million, by force if necessary. The U.S. has committed to providing Taipei with the means to defend itself, although recent arms sales to Taiwan have been slow to come in, raising concern among U.S. lawmakers. The Chinese embassy in Washington referred in a comment to CNN to a statement by a Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesman in which he strongly objected to a possible visit by Pelosi when asked to comment on airspace concerns. President Joe Biden mentioned U.S. military concerns about Pelosi's possible trip earlier this week. "I think the military thinks it's a bad idea right now, but I don't know what the status is," Biden said Wednesday, when asked if it was a good idea for Pelosi to visit Taiwan. Colonel Dave Butler, a spokesman for the Joint Chiefs of Staff, said the military, generally, briefs decision-makers on military assessments. "We talk about what the enemy can do, we discuss logistics, military plans and readiness," Butler said. He declined to say whether the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Mark Milley, spoke with Pelosi about the proposed trip to Taiwan. Nancy Pelosi said it was important to show support for Taiwan but declined to discuss any travel plans, citing security concerns. Pelosi said she heard, accidentally, about Biden's comments about her possible visit, but claims she didn't hear anything directly from the president. "I think the president meant that perhaps the military is afraid that my plane will be shot down, or something like that. I don't know for sure," Pelosi said. State Department officials also have some concerns, 2 sources said. State Department spokesman Ned Price on Thursday sidestepped questions about the trip, calling it hypothetical for now. "I'm not going to give any advice from the podium," Price said when asked about the State Department's position on her possible visit. Ned Price reiterated that the Biden administration remains committed to its One China policy, noting that the U.S. does not have diplomatic relations with Taiwan, but does have a reliable off-the-record relationship with the island. Disagreeing with Pelosi's possible visit, Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesman Zhao Lijian said on Tuesday that such a trip would seriously violate the One China principle and the provisions of the 3 joint China-U.S. communiques and harm China's sovereignty and territorial integrity. Sabina Chong, a spokeswoman for Taiwan's official D.C. office, told CNN that Taipei has not received any information about House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's planned visit to Taiwan. In China, The U.S. administration's doubts about the advisability of Pelosi's provocative trip from Beijing's point of view were perceived as a response to China's dissatisfaction. Chinese observers believe the Biden administration has clearly taken China's message of a possible diplomatic and military response that the U.S. cannot afford. Amid the risks of a strained relationship with China and 40 years of high inflation, the Biden administration urgently needs to pursue high-level engagement with China, but Chinese observers warn that Biden could use that engagement in exchange for Chinese compromise in future bilateral trade agreements or concessions about the position on the Russian-Ukrainian conflict, and not from the intention to sincerely correct their mistakes, but China will not buy such a trick. Biden may share U.S. military concerns about Pelosi's planned trip, as the U.S. government knows Pelosi's planned visit is playing with fire and could seriously exacerbate tensions across the Taiwan Strait, Yang Xiyu, senior fellow at the China Institute of International Studies, told the Global Times, which may cause a reaction from the Chinese military